So, truth be told, for 28 years, I was preparing myself for a position or a job or a mission that really didn't exist in the world. And people thought I was nuts, okay? What are you doing? I said, well, this is important. It's going to be very important. And by the way, I'd had a premonition about this. Many years ago, a friend of mine, Lena Dillingham, had a friend living in Santa Barbara. And she did some kind of readings that Lena, also a 6'2", was very impressed with. I didn't know she was a 6'2" at the time. Very impressed with. And she thought, Tom, this is very good stuff. You would really enjoy this. So I went and had this thing from Marika, who was staying with Lena. And I was quite impressed with it because she said something that had been said to me years ago. She said, later in life, you're going to be doing some type of work that doesn't exist in the world yet. And it's going to have to do with numbers and symbols and diagrams. And she says, I don't know what it is, but I know that you're going to be doing it and you won't have to worry about how you do it. You'll be supported in doing that. You may have to get the ball rolling yourself, but if you actually answer this call, you will be supported in that call, in answering that call. So that's a little preamble because that's precisely what happened, okay? So for 28 years, I kept going to these classes. I understand Ra wasn't alive 28 years. I was. I never stopped. Ra left his body, but I never stopped. I had this library. I've been editing this library until there was a divorce, and I lived in my car for a couple of years after that, and this, that, and the other. So I had coitus interruptus in terms of life, shall we say. And it was all perfect because that was what needed to happen for me, just to sink into this and be really on my own and really get to know myself and sink very deeply into this information. And when you're awake 22 hours a day, you would be surprised how much time there is. There is an infinite amount of time. So at any rate, then I have this encounter with the first reflector who was not constantly embarrassed or trying not to attract attention, by the name of Fred DeJody. He came to a Course in Miracles class that I was in. And I looked at him and I said, there's something severely wrong with him, or he's a reflector. So I didn't approach him because he didn't seem to want to be approached. And so to make a long story short, he heard from Ra that I did something very interesting that was astrological based that seemed to have a lot in common with source knowledge. And so him being a reflector said, maybe this is something for me. So he says to me, I'd like to get together with you and buy you a cup of coffee and have an hour visit with you about whatever this thing is you're doing. So this was the first reflector I had met in the number of years that I'd been involved in design, who was actually not on drugs of one sort or another, just trying to manage his situation or just hide from the world. He was very sharp. And I didn't see that until I told him. I said, the first thing I said, vive la différence, Fred. You are different. You are different from 99% of the people on this planet. And different is good. Lit up like a Christmas tree, if not a solar orb. This man I couldn't believe it. It was like instantaneous. And like I said, 6.5 hours later, we walked out of there. And he's been a different person since that moment. It was an instantaneous, holy instant, bam, awakeness. He became an incredible student of design. And the reason I mentioned Fred is because they have a very different purpose of existence than the rest of us. He's a lunar type rather than a solar type. And having had that experience, I was amazed by it. So he and I became quite good friends, and he, as a 6'2", and finding what that was, went and became the most studious student, and he was all over the web looking for 6'2s all over the place, and he encountered a fella by the name of Ben Torre, who I'm speaking with at this moment. And he said, he called me up and he said, this very interesting fella, he's coming to Boulder. I think you would really enjoy meeting him. And I said, okay, I'm happy with that, Fred. So we got together and I took one look at this flying Frenchman. I said, you look like trouble to me, brother, but I think you might be the kind of trouble I like. And so I am astonished because while I was just in my own process, being my own hermit, involving myself with getting ready for something, I didn't know what that something was, okay? And when I met Ben and when I met Fred, all of this stuff started opening up, and I was remembering all the prophetic parts of this. So I went back through and started listening to all the prophecy information. And I said, Tom, you've been watching this now for years. You've been watching these things click off. And so I looked at that and I saw the things that was coming, and I said, oh my God. So much of what Ra said to us that I thought, well, that's interesting. I don't know what to do with it. Okay? Now I know exactly what to do with it. And so developing an association with Ben, who had been in something that I was very intrigued with, because I experienced no competition with this man. I experienced a tremendous amount of cooperation. I experienced a fellow who had been in design for 6 years or so, who was pretty close to where I was after 28 years or so, okay? And I went, this is impressive. So this is the time. And then I remembered 2027. That's 7 years from now. When I met you, that was about 7 years from now. Ra told me, he said, in 2020, you are going to have some interesting things happen to you. You and a lot of other people, but you'll be one of the few that actually understands it, okay? It's the call you've been waiting for. Watch your temples. So the more I spent time with Ben, we just had this connection. We had this commonality, this capacity to see. And that is why we're sitting here right now. And Ben has come up with something that is very, very beautiful and wonderful for the design community, because it's not another one of these competitive organizations that needs to support itself to make a living. I have no problem with people needing to support themselves making a living, but that cannot be the thing that holds back what human design actually came here for. And I remember Rob telling me that. He said there's going to be all these organizations and it's going to go so many different ways, but the 6 twos are the ones that are going to carry this into the world. It's why you're here. It's why you're here. I said, okay. And so that reminder, and then I'm starting to share this information with this young person who just came out of his 3rd line process, who's way advanced compared to the majority of people that I met. Got it all. Got it all. Not only got it, had something to offer. So it was this circle be unbroken, non-competitive, cooperative thing. I've been waiting for that. I've been waiting for that. This is the primer coat of what is coming. Denver, first experience that I ever experienced. Well, first and foremost, the last time I was in a room with more than 10 people around design, I was with Ra himself. And there were, he called me and he said, I'm going to go to Denver and do a public presentation on design. I thought, you arrogant little sucker. What do you know about design to do public presentations? So I go to this thing and I watch this guy do this incredible presentation to the collective. And I was very respectful of his space because it was his stage. I was invited. So I went there, I responded, I went there and I watched this thing and I was amazed. There was these 58 hungry souls for design. And when Ben was talking about design, I said, so what, you design humans? That's the response I got when I started talking about design. No, I don't design humans, but if I did, I think I could do a little better job. But at any rate, I was impressed with this person. And I realized, okay, they're going to get it a lot faster than we got it. They're not going to have stupid questions like, so you design humans? They're not going to have that. They were hungry for this information. So I'm looking at this thing and I'm saying, well, Ben's doing a splendid job, but you got 4 different types, 12 different profiles, who knows how many different authorities, who knows how many different conditioning sitting in the room. It'd be nice if we could take and make this, rather than collective, personal for these people. So at the end of the presentation, Ben asked me, he said, anything else you'd like to offer, Tom? Because I waited for him to ask me. And I said, well, actually there is. I went and talked with the powers to be of the place that we're in. I asked them, is there a limit on the time in which we can be here? Unfortunately, they said, no, all you have to do is take everything with you before you leave because the door is going to lock behind you when you walk out. I said, that's great. That's wonderful. So I was prepared. All this stuff was just, I could feel it bubbling up. And so I said, yeah, Ben, I actually would like to make an offering for everyone that's here, for anyone that's willing to stay. And if you're willing to stay. And you said, yeah, I'm good. So I sight read 58 design charts, and I watched people have an immersion of being seen. And that's what they all wanted. They all wanted to be seen for who they are. They wanted to know who they are, and then they wanted to be seen for that. And so by having that experience, I discovered in that experience what it actually is to be a quad right. I knew intellectually what it was, but I'd never had the experience. You sit there and you touch people. They were short but not shallow penetrations into their design. And some of them cried and some of them laughed, and you could just see the weight coming off of them, and they were starting to light up just like Fred did. And I went, oh my God, it is time. And this gentleman, Ben Torre, brought this information. I call him Ben Jaman, brought this experience to me. And I was so grateful. I went, this must be what I've been preparing for. I had, everybody thought I was nuts to be so wrapped up in this. I mean, I was truly obsessed with design. Spent hours and hours and hours editing this information. There wasn't any of the organizations that were honoring any of their bargains with me. So being a tribal person, I thought, well, I'm just going to hold on to this stuff until something shows up that's worthy of my call. Fred DeJody, a 6'2", Benjamin, a 6'2", Fa Creighton, a 6'2". All of a sudden, I'm surrounded by 6'2s.
And boom the hub.
And boom the hub. HUB27. I'll let you say what that is. I understand who in it, who be in 2027. It's all about the nourishment. It's all about the new species that is coming. It is about it is about actual emotional awareness coming onto this planet. Emotions get a lot of bad rap because they're not clear. People flying off the handle with no clarity whatsoever. There's nothing more beautiful than clean, clear emotion spoken into the cool night air. And there's nothing more toxic than anything less than that being vomited at you. So I went, okay, this is it. This is what I've been doing. This is why I've been doing it. And so I continue to repeat this. You look like trouble to me, but I'm pretty sure you're the trouble I enjoy. And that's how we are sitting here today. And it is Benjamin's intention, it is my intention to get this information to as many people as possible who can get it to other people as quickly as possible, because folks, 5.5 years from now, we're going to be living on a very different world.